You had to cross over and enemy World War I, II, and III. So you lived in French, you can also learn German, you can learn Dutch, you can learn many countries. You go to Africa, there are 12 dialects that a native might know, in addition to the colonist language. When you go to the Caribbean as well, when we're in Mexico, our pool boys spoke German, Italian, and French, and its native Spanish. We were so arrogant. This was one thing I was hoping the Obama administration would erase, but then the president admitted he didn't speak a foreign language, and he graduated from Harvard. So one thing we need to situate ourselves as not only American citizens, this president should be ushered into our international citizens. This world is ours only if we're participants in the world. And so when Madoff wasn't the real economic crisis, is when the world, when our country gave our heads up to let some other country take our sovereignty. Most of New York City is not owned by New York, it's not Donald Trump building large, it's owned by Arab companies. There's a Russian guy, one of the richest Russian men, who was vouched by 80% of the New York Mets when they built that big building in Brooklyn. So we ain't reigning supreme, we just thinking about it. So if I would tell young people, I don't care where they are, is that the greatest education you give yourself is travel. Get out of these United States of America and live the world is nothing. Because we are tied into that great ship. The world is smaller via technology, but our mindset, there's still a gap between what we know and what is really happening in the world. If so, we would have known more about Haiti, that people think it's a third world country only because of poverty. They have more hope and intelligence there than we could ever muster, but because we the way in which America interacted with them, starting with Tucson Overture, and the same reason with Cuba. Cuba is strong because of its ties to Russia. We can't forgive them for the Bay of Pigs. So we got to know all these different things, but travel is the greatest thing we have on our Congress. The reason why we need to not only talk about the president, you have to look at your local government. Power is local, and who you send into Congress, those people sit on foreign affairs committees who've never traveled anywhere. They just, I'm living large, I'm going to China, I'm going to France, and they don't know the language, don't know what they're supposed to be doing there. So they need you to use your education to knock on the door. That's what I do. Why are you up there in that senator's office or that congressman's office? You're not from that state. I said, but they sit on a committee that impacts me. And they would have to relate to the world because all of that is impacting us. We're not national citizens. After 9/11, when the dust set off that tragedy, I hope that all catapulted us into international citizens. So let your education be travel, go beyond the block, the hood, the sorority, and your race, your gender orientation. If not, we don't forget being black and white. We don't think America is going to be the ghetto in our minds, and the economy, and other places. It might be.
Well.
We've been together 20 years. I've been in school, yes sir.
I'd like to welcome you to Niagara Falls. Unfortunately, today is 1852 because it's really an area that's very depressing. You've heard all the stories, and everything is true, what people have been saying. I work in City Hall. I'm alone. I'm the only black man in City Hall and government. Here we are in the 21st century. I'm the only black male there in administration. I'm alone. We have some real problems, and I know we can't address them all tonight, but my question to you is what advice would you give to the young people here? Because what happens oftentimes with people of color, we go to these feel-good meetings, it feels good, when we walk out, it's out of sight, out of mind. And so there's real issues here, and if young people here understand that the real movement of change always came from young people. Civil rights movement, all young. The music generation, all young. All right? Those old people, older guys don't know the vision, but we don't have the legs. My advice, I'm asking what the advice is, because the reality is we have some serious, 95% of the population of Niagara Falls is on public assistance. It's black, it's white, it's across the board. It is a place where you can't imagine. We are we have the center of the wonder of the world, but you would never know it. You would never, if you're here in July, you would never know that 8 million people come here to this county, this city, have racism. This is the world according to me. All of us here know the problems. But yet, we are the problem. Because we accept it and we talk about it, it feels good, but we don't do anything about it. And so you can walk the talk, or you can talk the talk, but we're a little short on walking the walk. If I'm saying that right. We're a little short. And so my question to you is, what advice would you give to all these people who are pro-black, want to make a change, all the stuff that's all passion in us? What would you say to them? Because once we walk out of this room, we go right back to the hamster wheel. You know, we get in that wheel, and we're so busy that we just don't get out of it to figure out, make the change. And like the lady spoke on about her children, we have a school district. Originally, the brother and the sister ran the district, 1 and 2. Where does that happen? Now, he's gone, and we have the sister taking over. And they did a report in the paper that talked about, and here I am saying all of this, I don't care what people do with me, because I can't take it anymore. But now I have a sister running the district, and they did a report, and there were 2 pages of names of people who were related to the family that was in there. And you know the crazy part is, we all know it, and we all talk about it in little circles. But at the end of the day, when we go home, it's just talk, it's trivia, that's all it is. It's belly aching, but no one's doing anything. And it starts on the campus. That's where the civil rights movement started. It starts here. It started in the churches. If our pastors understood King, he took it outside of the pulpit. Because everybody in the church was kind of saved, and so he took it outside and brought it to the people. We need to bring it to the ground and do something. Because right now, it's just talk. And I'm guilty of that as well. I have my little projects, and I try to do it in my own way. But really, everything that I've heard today, unless it's put into action, you're just talking. So what advice would you give to these people here, these young people, who have an opinion, but that's all it is when you walk out this door at this afternoon?
I think that you gave a great example. And I was going to say too that Dr. King, though he loved the church, didn't believe that prayer alone was going to remedy the situation for the Negro in the 60s. He went to Washington, D.C. In fact, a great man named Dr. Michael Dyson, he said in his book on Dr. King, I may not get there with you, that God Almighty spoke in Washington, D.C. when Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill. So what you have sitting here today, you have the head of the NAACP. I know that Ben Jealous and Michael and I both worked with Ben on some of his national programs, is that we got to inspire and to embrace these young people to get into a movement, to have activity. One thing that was great about the political campaign is that we realized that not only were we American citizens, but America was run by politics. So we had to all learn to be sort of quasi-politicians. So the fallout now with Obama is not just because he's black, it's because the Democrats who supported him are now hearing from the people based upon the jobs, because it's all talking about politics. So what we need to do through our student government associations on campuses is to make sure that these young people are alive, and I believe the senators here are doing a great job, but then maybe the GSA should go out into the community to bridge the town and gown and see what the local activists are doing, so that you can have not only a drum beat, but a grand marshal, into which the activism of the discourse of whatever's taking place on the college campus can hit the people in the community in which you are part of as well. So that way you have the intellectual capacity with the activism, which Dr. King did with his youth movement. And as far as, I think you mentioned something too about the local situation. Well, you know, our young people in our schools, education in America has been dumbed down since President Bush, when he bragged about being a C student. We talked about our students becoming students in the primary and the general election. We talked about being test takers, but not being really good students. We had to go back to scholarship where children